Hey, YouTube. Glad to see you this morning. It is Thursday morning, February 1st. I can't believe it's February already. And thought I would jump on and talk about something that a lot of my clients and that are dealing with, and just in general out in the world, I'm hearing a lot of people grapple with indecision, having a difficult time making decisions about things. It's almost like this spirit of confusion has kind of gripped everybody, and we're all just living in it. So, I want to talk about why it is actually, it serves being indecisive, serves as almost a tyrannical force in your brain. The human brain was designed to need closure. Several decades ago, back when I was early on in my psychology career in the well, not really, I didn't start in the 80s because I was still in high school, but in the 90s, the 80s and 90s, this whole idea of finding closure became kind of a big deal. People talked about it all the time, how important it was to have closure. And it became kind of a, I don't know, like a stereotype. It's just kind of funny, something funny that people would say. But the reality is there's a lot of science behind why it's important to have closure. The human brain craves a closed loop. So when you are telling a story, or let's say you go to a movie and you're engrossed in the movie and you decide to leave 20 minutes before the movie's over, perhaps you're not feeling well or something, and I don't know, you just have to leave. There's going to be a part of your mind that's constantly searching for the resolution of the movie that you just left. Your mind wants closure. It wants to know, how does this end? And the reason is because it's very important for your mind to have the meaning of something. The mind needs purpose. What is this about? What is this thing that I'm thinking about? What does it mean? And we impose meaning or purpose on something by making a decision. So when we are mired in all this mental debate that we have going back and forth, should I do this? Should I do that? I don't know. What's the best option? I don't even know what to do. So I'm just not going to make a decision at all. And the problem is that your brain hasn't gotten the memo that you just decided to not make the decision. Because actually, not making a decision is a form of decision making itself, just as an aside. But your brain doesn't like that because you haven't resolved the issue. The issue is still there. And there's a part of your mind that kind of is churning, looking for that. And that part of your brain looking for that actually uses energy. Like it takes away mental energy that you might want to have for something else. And if you have a whole bunch of things in your life that you're very indecisive about, guess what's going to happen? It's going to drain mental resources from other areas of that you do want to make forward motion in. So here's what I want to, the message for today is make a decision. Do what you need to do. Find out the information you need to find out. If you're missing some information to make a decision, go get that information. If you're missing a resource that you might need to make a decision, go get that resource. If you can't get that resource and you need that resource in order to do one action versus another, then the decision's made for you. If you can't have the resource, you now know what decision to make. Regardless, make the decision, make the choice. Why don't people make decisions? Usually, people are afraid of making the wrong decision. I'm scared that if I make a decision, it will be the wrong one and something catastrophic is going to happen. So, depending on the decision that you're talking about, and I want to be very careful here because there's certain, I'm talking globally here about all kinds of decisions. It could just be day to day, what kind of toothpaste should I choose at the grocery store? Or, should I quit my job and start a new business? So I'm talking about this global idea of making decisions. I'm not telling you one way or another how to make a decision. What I do want to do is give you what you need in order to make that decision, close that loop, bring closure so that you can move forward. People are scared of making the wrong decision. So here's the thing. What you want to do is define for yourself, what is a wrong decision? What does wrong mean? So if you made a decision, whatever it is, and it turned out to be the wrong one, what would that look like? How would you know it's wrong? Sometimes people worry about making the wrong decision, but they don't even know why it would be wrong. They don't know what that would look like. Because the reality is, even if you make the quote unquote right decision, how would you know? What would change? What would be different? What in the environment, what feedback would give you the information, oh yeah, this was the right thing to do, or this was the wrong thing to do? So Answer that question for yourself. What does it mean if this would if I do this, what would it mean if that were a wrong decision? And then determine how bad is that wrong? So oftentimes we make decisions that end up perhaps not getting us where we want to go. And we think that if we do something, it'll get us to a particular destination. And we make a choice and we end up not at that destination. We end up somewhere else that we didn't quite want to be. Does that make that decision wrong? Well, no. What it did was it gave you a lot more information along the way about how to make a different decision going forward. And that's what you do. You make a different decision. You just say, okay, when I made that decision a couple weeks ago, it really didn't pan out the way I had hoped it would. So I'm just going to change course and make another decision and do something differently. That's all. It's not a catastrophe. And in fact, most of the time, not all of the time, but most of the time, you can't know until you make a decision whether it's right or wrong. Sitting in indecision, trying to anticipate whether it's right or wrong without taking any action, you're never going to get that answer. Because for the most part, you can't know whether something's going to work out or not until you actually start it. And then when you start moving forward, things start to change around you. Things start, whatever it is, the environment changes, you change because you're in a different place. And then you decide, is this where you want to be or is it not? And if it's not, then guess what? You make a different decision. You just change your mind and you do something different. It's not a catastrophe. So sometimes we make a decision, and let's say it really wasn't in our best interest. In some way, things got worse. So what do you do then? You make another decision. You change course. You're never going to get to a place where you're going to have to stop making decisions. So even if the decision you made was the quote unquote right one, guess what? You're eventually going to come up to another point where you're going to have to make other decisions about other things, because that's what life is. Life is the long game. And it's understanding that certain decisions, yay or nay, can be very, very consequential. And even if you make the decision that ends up being not in your best interest, you can always change course. You can always make another decision or a series of decisions to try to get you back where you wanted to be in the first place. Because that's how life is. It's a continuous series of decisions and then adjustments and then flexing based on what happens when you make decisions and you start moving forward and all of a sudden things are happening. And guess what? It's time to make another decision because you're in a different place. You've made some action. You now have data. You have things that have happened because you have taken action. Now you can determine, okay, do I want to keep doing this or not? And guess what? That's another decision that you're going to have to make. Being indecisive actually seizes up your brain. It really leads to actual paralysis, mental paralysis, because your brain wants to know what to do. It wants to know, like, where are we going here? And if it doesn't have that, as I mentioned before, it's going to drain energy because it's going to be constantly searching for that resolution, that decision, that endpoint of this particular issue. Always remember the metaphor. You're in a movie, you're really engaged in that movie, and you leave. There's going to be a part of you that just wants to know, how does this end? I wanted to know how it ends. And your brain is like that when it's, it wants to know what's the decision here? What's the end point here? So I want you to feel empowered today to start to make decisions and to not be afraid of making the quote unquote wrong decision. And the way to not be afraid of making that wrong decision is to define in your mind, what does it mean to be wrong? How will I know if this is a wrong decision? What will tell me that, oh yeah, the decision I made back there would have been better off if I had made the other choice, picked the other option? How will you know that? And if you're sitting there and you might answer yourself, I don't know how I'll know that. I don't know what's right or what's wrong. And that's part of the problem. Then guess what? You're just going to have to choose something and move forward. You're not going to know by just sitting here and thinking more about it. You're not. You're not going to know until you start moving forward and you start generating action, and then things that will generate things in your environment changing. And then you decide, okay, yeah, this is how I want things to go. Or no, I kind of wanted something different. So guess what? I'm going to change my mind. and I'm going to choose something different. All right. That's your motivation for today, hopefully, to start making decisions. Stop being mired in the sense of I can't move forward because that's it's just not motivating. It's not getting you where you want to go. It doesn't get anybody to where they want to go. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting. Aren't you just tired of all the mental debate? I know I get tired of that. And that's usually my cue of, I'm procrastinating too. Like if I like there I might be getting something out of not moving forward. Either I'm actually scared of taking a step, and maybe that's why you're indecisive. It's not really about the decision. It's because you're just scared of doing either one of the things or any of the things that you're operating on. And that, my friends, is the topic for another live stream. So I'll get there. I'd love to know your thoughts about this. Hey, if you found this content interesting, give me a thumbs up down there. I'd love for you to subscribe. You don't have to. I know I'm new and you don't know what to expect from me and you don't trust me yet. I get that. But I'd still be honored if you got anything out of today that you at least give me a thumbs up and maybe a subscribe, because you know what? You can always unsubscribe later. Are you struggling with a decision? Should I subscribe? Should I not? I'm going to tell you, maybe you take a chance and subscribe. And if it's not worth your time later on, you can unsubscribe. That's the beauty. Okay, have a fantastic day.